Thursday night, March 30th. You are listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. We have amazing news that's on the way here in the Chicago area. Our first expansive warm air mass comes into the area for tomorrow. This is the first time that temperatures have actually hit 60 degrees officially. It hasn't happened yet, but tomorrow will be the first time. Last year at this time already, we've already seen 3 days with temperatures in the 60s. In fact, most of the time, we've already hit a 70-degree day by now, and this is really phenomenal. We've had a very cold, we haven't seen that warmth. Plenty of warmth that's developed by the Gulf Coast states, but it has not reached the Chicago area. Tonight, that warm air comes, and we're going to pay a price, not much of a price initially. A warm front. This is a really strong warm front. It really is. It's coming in tonight, probably a little bit after 2 a.m. There's a really good chance that we're going to see thunderstorms with that warm front. Nothing severe. This is just, there could be something severe, but it could be some hail because the freeze level is quite low with this thing. And there's strong winds. So showers, perhaps a thunderstorm overnight tonight. Then that warm air pushes up and over the Chicago area. Finally, for a change, we know we have temperatures going into the 80s behind this front over parts of, even in the mid parts of the Midwest, temperatures forecast highs in the 70s, but there's going to be places that are going to go into the 80s in northwest Illinois, I believe, west central Illinois, portions of Iowa for tomorrow. Now, tomorrow after that warm front pushes through, things kind of dry out. There's a chance that there could be a midday thunderstorm complex that forms over in southern Wisconsin. But really for us, it's dry. There's lots of clouds. The big story comes in tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night. And this is what everyone's been talking about all week. Everyone's been talking about the severe weather risk, and this is unusual, really unusual. We've gone up to a 4 for places in western Illinois. Evening models have pushed the severe weather slightly to the south and the east than what they were earlier today, but the triple point remains somewhere over Iowa, perhaps northeast Missouri and Illinois, western portions of Illinois. You know, many of the storm chasers focused on the dry line, which is something which will be moving through. In some areas, it's actually going to be almost like two fronts move through. One of them is the dry line. The other one is cold air advection. We have a lot of that coming in later on tomorrow night. But another thing to look for is the triple point, which is going to be over in a little bit further north. So, the question is, what's going to be going on in the Chicago area? Climatologically speaking, especially this time of the year, what happens, you have severe thunderstorm warnings. These complexes, they develop in Iowa. They push off to the east. They arrive here in Chicago later at night after sunset when things have calmed down. These storms gradually weaken, and by the time they hit the Chicago area, usually they're still strong enough to be issuing severe thunderstorm warnings. And then as you get closer to the lake, the thing just falls apart. That's what I've noticed right around here for places in Chicago, right along the lake here, things tend to fall apart. If you look at the high-resolution rapid refresh model, that's exactly what happens. Exactly what happens. In fact, a few hours ago, you see the two major areas, thunderstorm complexes, they just split in half. One goes north, the other one goes south. Now the whole thing goes south. So, in regards to what's actually going to happen, we know these models don't handle these storms well, and they change. The Storm Prediction Center has actually just upped the risk for severe weather here in Chicago. We're now holding at a 3 out of 5. You know, so if you're not this far east by the lake, you're further to the west, you have a significantly higher chance, I think, there's a significant higher chance of seeing that severe weather. You know, we're talking about 70 mile per hour winds. We have very strong updrafts, lots of wind shear, lots of things going on, and the complex is eventually going to form into a squall line, but not a full squall line. There's going to be still some supercells along that, which tends to, usually that produces weaker tornadoes. The tornadoes weaken. Tomorrow, the National Weather Service points out they're not sure the tornadoes are actually going to weaken, and we still have a pretty good risk for long tracked, strong tornadoes, even here in the Chicago area. Will it make it all the way to areas within 5 miles of the lake? That's the question. Will it be able to do that? That's something which it remains to be seen. But what we do have on tap for tomorrow is definitely really warm temperatures, much warmer than what we've ever felt before this year, and also high humidity. Dew points going well into the 60s. In fact, dew points, the source of all this air is dew points in the 70s. And that's something which the models did not pick up on dew points in the 70s, but going down into South Texas, that's where all this air is starting out. The dew points have warmed into the low 70s. I think to explain the synoptic setup, it's best to read straight from the National Weather Service website. So those that are interested in hearing that, just stay tuned for another moment. This comes from the Paducah, Kentucky National Weather Service. This was issued earlier this afternoon, March 30th, Thursday, 2023. This is the Friday synoptic setup. The large sweeping trough will work eastward towards the area and close off over the Dakotas. I want to point out from the St. Louis National, meteorologist Tom Skilling, this storm is a result of the 11th atmospheric river that moved off the Pacific Ocean. That's expected to move over the Rockies and translate into a powerful storm system and then continue to strengthen as it moves through the Midwest. We have blizzard warnings in effect for portions of South Dakota, winter storm watches in effect. This is a major snowstorm up there, heavy snow, very strong winds. In fact, that air moves into the Chicago area tomorrow night into Saturday on Shabbos. We might be getting a wind storm over here with perhaps even damaging wind gusts. This has nothing to do with storms, and snow will be falling here in the Chicago area at the same time. But until we get there, let's go back into our warm air for tomorrow and going back to the synoptic setup from the National Weather Service in Paducah, Kentucky. The large sweeping trough will work eastward towards the area and close off over the Dakotas. To the southeast of the trough, the subtropical and polar jets will phase into around a 150 to 160 knot speed max oriented southwest to northeast over Missouri. Earlier in the day, we will be in the right, this is for places in Kentucky, we will be in the right front quadrant of this jet, the substandard portion, but curvature from the trough axis should still result in net lift, height falls across the area much of the day. By the evening, we get into a more neutral part of the jet and large-scale ascent increases. Nevertheless, strong cyclogenesis will occur to the northwest with a 976 to 980 MB low over Iowa into Minnesota. This tightens up low-level height and wind fields, increasing our 850 MB winds, which is about 5,000 feet above the surface, to 55 to 60 knots by late afternoon with surface winds at 20 to 25 knots. These strong southwesterly winds will advect low-level moisture into the region, and the trend has been for an increase in the projected low-level dew points, now somewhere between 64 to 67 degrees. This again is in the Kentucky and the Boot Hill area of Missouri, and that's for most deterministic and ensemble guidance. It goes on over there to explain the situation, the synoptic setup for over there. And it explains that we have another powerful storm. This will also be affecting the Chicago area next week on Tuesday, where severe weather setup is once again likely. I was asked to share the following information. Now, this is for southeast Missouri. This is called Weather with Bob Clubs, so he's absolutely amazing. He's in the southeast Missouri area. This is what he wrote. And evening models do not have good news for southeast Missouri. We will see a tornado watch issued Friday afternoon. This is again for the southeast Missouri when conditions begin to become favorable for tornado formation. Once this happens, please stay alert to rapidly changing conditions. These storms will be moving quickly Friday. Have a way to receive warnings when they are issued and take shelter immediately. Strong, damaging winds are likely to be widespread Friday. Prepare for power outages. The wave of storms will move west to east across the area Friday, likely between 3 and 9 p.m. That's for that area. I want to point out that for places around the Quad Cities, it's more between 2 and 8 p.m. Here in the Chicago area, it's likely going to be between 6 and 10 o'clock p.m. And also, the National Weather Service tells us it's going to be real quick. As of now, they think here in Chicago, it's going to be a 1-hour thing. So, strong, but they're going to get out of here real quick. It's being said that the storms are going to be moving so quick. We're going back here towards Chicago, but it's probably everywhere, that they're going to be moving at highway speed tomorrow, 60 to 65 miles an hour. That's the direction, that's the speed that the storms are going to be moving. And at that type of a speed, you could really get powerful supercells that could bring strong winds aloft down to the surface. Meteorologist Tom Skilling was explaining some of that. And here we have the wave of storms back to the southeast Missouri. The wave of storms move west to east across that area Friday, likely between 3 and 9. We should be able to see the storms form to our west on radar and track their approach. He says he expects that the Storm Prediction Center will expand and perhaps raise the risk zones for southeast Missouri Friday morning. We have some more that needs to be said in regards to staying aware of what's going on, along with explaining a couple other things about this severe weather event. So stay tuned. This is issued 2 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time, Thursday, March 30th, 2023. This is from the Quad Cities, Iowa, Illinois. This also was confirmed that there's no update as of 7:05 p.m. this evening. Tomorrow, the severe weather day that we have been messaging arrives. Bottom line up front, confidence continues to increase on severe weather mid-afternoon through the evening on Friday. General timing will be between 2 to 8 p.m., with storms moving into our west around 2 p.m. Currently, the Storm Prediction Center has essentially highlighted our entire area with a moderate risk. This is for Quad Cities, level 4 out of 5 for severe weather, which indicates numerous strong to severe storms are expected. Along with the risk of severe winds, we can expect strong winds through the day, as well as strong gradient winds develop, and mixing may also translate strong winds aloft to the surface. A potent wave is currently ejecting off of the central Rockies, which is generating a strong surface low, which continues to deepen, that is set to track through the Midwest. Guidance is starting to hone in on a track of the system, which would track the surface low from west central Iowa and track it through northeast Iowa. With that, a strong warm front traversed through the area today, leaving our area in the warm sector of the approaching storm. This is for Iowa and West Illinois, and our eyes are on the cold front and possible occlusion that works its way into the area. Tonight and into Friday morning, we will be dealing with warm advection-induced convection. Chicago also is going to be dealing with that. Some of these storms may be strong, with a low chance to see some severe storms, mainly focusing on hail. The same is true for Chicago. Frequent lightning can also be expected from these storms. As this clears out tomorrow morning, we will warm up quite a bit, with temperatures forecast to increase into the upper 60s to mid-70s. That's the western Illinois, eastern Iowa area, especially in our south. Some guidance hints at near 80 degrees in our south. So, well above normal temperatures are forecast ahead of the cold front. Also, along with the warm temperatures, impressive warm advection will also pull in anomalous moisture. Therefore, dew points are currently forecast to be within the mid-50s to low 60s. This is for the Quad Cities. While the triple point will be the area to focus on, especially for tornado potential, we must also look in the warm sector, especially along and ahead of the cold front. Initially, we may see some more discrete convection form, but given strong forcing and shear parallel to the boundary, we are expecting upscale growth. Although latest guidance is indicating more of a disconnected line of supercells, also supported by model soundings, damaging winds and tornadoes will be the main threat, with areas of large hail as well. The Storm Prediction Center has our area hatched on all hazards, indicating that we can see significant winds, hail, along with strong tornadoes. This is a very dynamic system with above normal temperatures and moisture, which will help increase instability quite a bit tomorrow. Guidance has been hinting at CAPE values ranging between 1,500 to 2,500 joules per kg, which is a bit higher than previous forecast packages. Hence, the increasing potential for some significant severe wind shear is also concerning, ranging between 40 to 60 knots in the deep layer, with the low level shear ranging between 25 to 40 knots. This shear in the low level is very concerning. Just looking at these parameters and features in place, this paints a picture for a pretty strong event. With a dive into the shear profile, Huddlegraphs also indicate effective SRH values ranging from 200 to 300 plus. Therefore, when putting everything together, this is why we are expecting a line of supercell thunderstorms favoring all hazards. Strong winds above the surface will favor damaging winds, as thunderstorm downdrafts that tap into the low-level jet will help to translate these winds to the surface. While we still can see some changes in the forecast, it has been rather consistent through the last week, with confidence increasing daily. Therefore, have plans established in the case of severe weather, especially because tornadoes that develop along the line of convection may develop rapidly and hold the potential to be strong. So in light of Severe Weather Awareness Week, please have your weather radio ready. That's what I wanted to speak about. A weather radio. They have a very loud alarm, and on a Friday night, those radios are going to come very in handy, especially for on the Shabbos. No question about it. Just in case we see severe weather, strong to damaging winds will also be a big threat with these storms, so secure objects and furniture outside. We don't have time to read the Chicago National Weather Service right now. I believe I've included the information already, though. When it comes to storm chasing, dry lines might be the bread and butter of targeting, but triple points are oftentimes the bullseye that demands attention. This region is also often an overlooked target for new storm chasers, but perhaps less so in recent years. By the way, if you are storm chasing tomorrow, it's super dangerous stuff, but it is advised to stay in the southeast portions of the complex so that you're easily able to pull away if anything should happen. Just pull east and south, because these storms do not generally move in that direction. The triple point is something you should not ignore. It is usually where the dry line meets a warm front or stationary front, and also where a center of surface low pressure resides. Now notice how in the weather map we spoke about the low pressure crossing Iowa for tomorrow. In fact, we even mentioned earlier the possibility of it entering parts of Minnesota. So that low pressure is in the Iowa area. We also have a dry line there. We're going to have all that dry line down south too. We have another area of elevated risk for severe weather. But the triple point is what I believe they're referring to, the National Weather Service in the Quad Cities. The other ones don't mention it explicitly, at least. So we're speaking about the triple point. This is when the triple points work. So all of these ingredients, where you have the center of low pressure, the dry line, a warm front or stationary front, they create a vorticity-rich zone which favors tornado formation and big-time severe weather threats otherwise. This is when the triple points work. A strong surface low pressure with a strong moisture gradient on the dry line and a somewhat diffuse warm front is the perfect combination for triple point tornadoes. We have all that tomorrow. In fact, there are some days that the target becomes painfully obvious when all of these factors come into play. While in storm chasing, there are no foolproof strategies. If a triple point looks promising, it is best to pay attention. Another time when you might target this region is when capping is stronger. Triple points tend to see the cap broken more often than other targets due to the enhanced forcing here. While it is not a hard and fast rule, most severe weather days will at least see the triple point target see storms. This is when you want to avoid, the following is when you want to avoid the triple point if you're a storm chaser. If there is not much capping and there's a lot of forcing, avoid the triple points. In this scenario, the dry line will likely be a more favorable target for isolated storms. Triple points will tend to see storms crowd up fast and first on chase days when capping is weak and forcing is strong. In these scenarios, there will be a messy, complicated, and perhaps impossible chase situation develop. At the very least, storms will display almost zero of the characteristics if you're into these types of things. We want to end off saying that storm chasing is a dangerous and potentially fatal activity. Do not attempt without the proper training. The materials, I'm reading from a site. It says Tornado Titans, Titans. So there's a term called the EHI, which is why I think there will be capping at some point. And I think the triple point for tomorrow would be an excellent place for storm chasers to go, and to go further north in St. Louis, to go up into Iowa and Illinois because of something called the EHI. That would require reading from the Chicago National Weather Service website a little bit, but let's just read what the EHI is. The Energy Helicity Index is a combination of two indexes. By itself, it is the best index available for tornado prediction since it combines both CAPE and helicity. The CAPE is the amount of pure instability present from a parcel of air that rises from the lower PBL. Helicity is the product of low-level shearing, known as streamwise vorticity, and storm inflow directly into the streamwise vorticity. The helicity is storm relative, which means the helicity is calculated from the storm's frame of reference. Okay, we don't have time to get into we don't have time to get into the rest of this, but there will be capping, which means there will be a period where there will be no thunderstorms in the further northern areas, which means when the thunderstorms finally do develop, they're going to be very strong. From what I understand, when you go down into southeast Missouri, that might be happening, but it might not be happening. There's a question mark in regards to that. That's my understanding of it. So we do have two areas of where the risk is a 4. We have the storm but one area does not have the same chance as seeing thunderstorms as the other area. That's how I understand it. When you go into, we also have the Storm Prediction Center that has now put Chicago at number 3, has raised it to number 3, which is an enhanced risk. It's really significant. I question whether places as far east as within 5 miles of the lake would also be seeing this type of stuff. But we'll wait and see in regards to that. The timing would be between 6 and 10 o'clock p.m. tomorrow. And we're really out of time. I think we're going to sum it up probably in another podcast, a real quick one, just to sum things up. You've been listening to the podcast Weather with Enthusiasm.